Man, I haven't seen one of those since the great battery recall of 27. That's concerning. Memory match. Oh, I think I'm going to be able to win this one pretty easily. Today we're going to be taking a look at a very exciting new release from Mistral AI, and that is Mistral Small 4. Now this is not necessarily a super small model, but I guess it's okay because it's called small. This is a unified model, and what that means is very exciting because it's listed right here prominently as well in this announcement blog post, where this is the first Mistral model designed to unify the capabilities of the flagship models. Magistral for reasoning, Pixtral for multimodal, and Devstral for agentic coding into a single versatile model, which is Mistral Small 4. So this is really exciting to see because hypothetically then we will get the best of the capabilities of all of those previously separate models into this one model. And this is multimodal, as we're seeing right here, which is exciting just for some of the ways in which we can test it with wireframe to website tests, as well as story generation based off of pictures. And a lot of folks have often said that the Mistral models are very good for creative writing and more broad world knowledge. So I am very excited to see how this does in some creative writing tasks mixed in with multimodal. Now, in terms of the technical specs of this model, and this is where it gets exciting for folks who have unified memory systems like the Strix Halo or DGX Spark at around 128 gigs of system RAM, because this is a 119 billion parameter mixture of experts model, and recently there have been a lot of models in this size range coming out, which is exciting because at 4-bit quants, these do fit very nicely on the unified memory systems with 128 gigs of RAM like the Spark. Now, regrettably for today's video, I'm going to not be running this locally, partially because I can't get it working with VLLM right now. I actually, as I'm speaking here, have codecs working, trying to just figure out the correct flags and everything to get VLLM working on the Spark, but I want to make it known that I will be testing this model as well as a lot of the other 120B or around that size MOEs in a local setting. I'm working on like a better suite of tests for these specific models. So I just want to throw that out there. Now for the specifics, this is, as we see, a 119 billion parameter mixture of experts model with 6 billion active per token, and then in parentheses 8B including embedding and output layers. Following that, it has a context window of 256K, as well as a configurable reasoning effort, so you can have it respond quickly or you can have it take more time and have it deeply reason for intricate questions. This is something as well that was seen with the Nemotron 3 Super that just came out recently as well. And then very excitingly, here is the native multimodality. So this can also see images and respond to them, which just adds a deep level of capability to a model like this. Following that though, I do want to just now hop over to the Hugging Face model card right here, because there are a few other additional interesting things of note. One of these is, of course, that this is an Apache 2.0 licensed model, and that is just a good license to see for things that are open source like this. Additionally, and something that is pretty cool from a technical standpoint, is there is additionally a speculative decoding model to go alongside this, which would be really cool in speeding up the responses of this, especially running on a local system like the Spark. So that is something I want to work to get working in combination. And of course, we also see there is this NVFP4 version as well, which I am currently trying to get working on the Spark. I am just having codecs take a stab at it, so it's running autonomously right there, just trying and troubleshooting to get this working, which is a cool use case of coding agents that I don't often see fully represented. Of course, additionally, there are some quantizations here. We have ones from LM Studio and the such. Now, I was unfortunately not really able to get wonderful results from the quantization I tried here using the Q4 on the DGX Spark. It was just cutting off preemptively in terms of its responses, and something didn't seem quite right in terms of the settings, so I did not want to test that for this test, because if something's misconfigured, it's not going to be really worthy of testing. So we're going to be using it through the NVIDIA NIM microservice here, where we can chat with this and it will be very, very quick to respond, which is cool. So for our first test, of course, you should be familiar if you do watch the channel, thank you, what we're going to do first, which is of course the browser OS test version 2, where it needs to create a browser operating system with 5 specific applications, 2 of which must be games, the ability to change the wallpaper, and then a special feature it decides on and implements of itself. So we can see here again, and this UI may look a bit unfamiliar to some folks, being that I'm using it through this NVIDIA service here. But regardless, we have our thinking chain, which did go rather quickly, as whatever this is being served on is significantly faster than what I would be able to be using this with at home. So we can just kind of allow that to finish thinking, and then it will generate the result for us, and then we'll take a peek at it. Okay, and that was a little over 1,000 lines of code. And I know that's like, okay, Bijan, why are you even mentioning that? It doesn't matter. I get that, but it's interesting to see the length of code that we get from some of these models that can be run locally. At least I personally find that interesting. Okay, now I'm noticing a few things here. Initially, the background does not seem to be working, and more destructively, the icons are just stacked on top of one another, which is detracting from my ability to actually be able to open these specific apps. Now, on the plus side, we do have a clock in the bottom right, which does show the correct time in my locale, as well as our special feature, which is just the system performance monitor. Now, before I go further, I am going to check the developer console here to see if there are any specific errors showing up. There is a right click. What? It has that's how infrequently I see these, that I definitely did not expect a 119B to get it. Change wallpaper, pastel. Oh, so it didn't fail to draw a wallpaper. It just made it light blue. And now that I'm looking at it against these other colors, it was actually light blue. I'm thinking sunset. Let's now just check. Do we have... Okay, very good. This is giving me retro operating system vibes, and I'm okay with that. Let's just begin with our calculator. You know what? This is actually a respectable result. Initially, I was like, oh no, it's going to be one of these videos, but it's definitely become better. Okay, let's just unminimize that. Let's do, I'm feeling fast. I'm going to click 2 random buttons. Okay, whatever this number is, 95 times 475. Good. Divided by 65. 7.307. Oh, I was right. And if we minimize it to the taskbar, it does snap down there. Regrettably, it does not seem we can reopen it once it has been minimized, but perhaps through the... Yeah, okay. Well, we get 1 go for each one of these apps for now. We have a notepad, simple but functional. I'm in one of those moods today, which is a good thing. Clock, another analog clock. This is 2 in a very short span of time for something that I've never prior seen, and I do like it. Now, of course, you could say the big issue is that this digital display is not showing the correct time, but fortunately the analog clock is actually showing the correct time of 3:52 in the morning, so I'll take it. Next up, we have our first game right here, which is tic-tac-toe. Very good, and it is just the simplified variant where you play both players. Some of these models recently have been implementing an AI player to play against, but those have all been like frontier models, state-of-the-art, closed source. So for a open source model, I'm quite happy with functional game. Next up, memory match. All right. We have a timer. E. Interesting that it just did it with letters. I don't know how I feel about this. Good. And it did properly understand the win condition. So nice to see. Next up, let's try... Oh, finally, we have our settings, which is quite minimal, where we can just change our wallpaper. Overall, this was completely functional. The only real issue here was that the icons were drawn on top of one another. Everything else worked fine. It just was unexpected because it looked like it loaded in with a broken wallpaper. It was just the default light blue color. I think we can get a better result out of this though. I've given it a bit of feedback. We'll see how... Oh wow, that was incredibly quick to reason. I am very interested to see. Below is the entire thinking yeah, the user is right. The previous implementation was indeed quite janky. All right, so our improved result has added 600 or so lines of code to the script. I've not looked at it yet. Oh wow, that is significantly improved in terms of the visual aesthetic. We do even have the icons not statically snapped to the background. They're actually floating. This is giving me like GPT-5. So starting off just by looking at the things we saw before, we still do have our performance monitor and clock in the bottom right. Is the right click still there? It is, and it's even a little more intricate. And the way the UI is being drawn here, even just with the right click, is nice. Cyberpunk gradient, okay, we'd have that grid pattern. Ugh, what sort of... I mean, yeah, but... And then ocean gradient. That's very nice. Someone has always said, why do you not try to resize these for mobile devices? I consistently forget, and I apologize. So let me... Seems to resize nicely, so... Decent. Next up, our start menu. There are some additional applications included here as well. As a fake music player, this is actually really good. The only thing I notice is I can't really move this around too much because it seemingly has the same kind of hovering in place effect as the icons. Regardless, this is a significant improvement over the base result. Ooh, very nice. 59 times 6, 354. Good, divided by 9. 39.336. Next up, we have Notepad, and it saved the previously written note from, of course, our much simpler browser OS. Very good to see. Following that, our clock is correct in the analog, but wrong in the digital. Tic-tac-toe. Very good. Memory match. Oh. You know, I think I'm going to be able to win this one pretty easily. All right. Settings. We do have a better settings window as well, where we can change our wallpaper from within there as well. Web browser, get out of here. Okay, it's not like, it's just a shell. Photo gallery, choose files. If I can upload a photo here and then it shows it to me, I'll be quite impressed. All right, so I uploaded it, but nothing happens. And then finally, terminal. So it added this terminal in, and that's very good. Can I type in here? Sadly, it does not seem I have the ability to type, but it did add this in, so that's good. Overall, this was definitely, a significant improvement over the original result. I'm very happy to see this. This is actually borderline impressive for a model of this size comparatively to what we see with much larger and state-of-the-art models. This is well done. Next up, because this model is multimodal, we're going to be giving it this photo of the Stevie Sclappis hand-drawn portfolio wireframe, and we're going to tell it to use this wireframe as inspiration to create a high-tech modern portfolio website that showcases the owner's prowess at coding. It should have special features implemented that are complex from a CS/ML implementation standpoint. Now, this specific prompt is one that I used most recently in my mega model test, meaning that this was run with specifically high-end and closed source models. So when it comes to the actual implementation of impressive snippets of code that are CS/ML related, I'll be very interested to see how this does in properly doing those. I would not expect a model of this size to really put something like emulating a neural net or something, but we never know. All right, let's check out our wireframe to portfolio website generation test. Okay, I'm noticing initially some issues, but I'm wondering, what is this moon? Is this a light mode, dark mode setting? Okay, moon and sun. That is very clever. Makes sense. Now, the big issue is that nothing's actually showing up here. Good. We do have a specific error to be able to give it. So I'm saying fix this error and regenerate the full script, which I also misspelled. That's okay. All right, let's check out our supposedly fixed portfolio. Okay, welcome to my portfolio. This is already from this person would not get hired just because it made you wait to actually read, but allow me to gather my thoughts. Okay, I'm starting to like things a little more here, but I'm going to say this is almost like a very self-confident amount of white space here. Wow. Right here, we have fake client testimonials on a portfolio website. I've never seen such a thing. Very interesting. Great portfolio. Your projects look amazing. About me. Okay, and then we have one random thing here that's actually kind of impressive compared to the rest of this. Hold on a second. A voice message? No, not in this. Hey, I don't want to hire you because your portfolio makes me mad. Okay. Why is Bijan failing to speak? I got another voice. Okay, I was attempting to say that previously I did also receive another voice kind of activation result, their speech to text, which is really cool to see another one in such short proximity, but I don't remember what model test I saw it previously, because this is really impressive that this actually properly went and knocked this out, being this is an open source Apache 2.0 model. Yes, I'm running it at the quantization that it's being served through the NVIDIA service, so probably not like a 4-bit quant, but still, this thing's showing some serious capability in some of these tests, at least in my opinion. So yes, the rest of this website is kind of lackluster in terms of the design, but remember, this was also the multimodal coding test, so it was designed to go off our hand-drawn wireframe. I need to find out what the other model that recently implemented some text-to-speech was. Speech-to-text. Oh, it was Nemotron 3 Super. Okay, so it was another... So we're getting all these like 120B open source models now that are just banging out like speech-to-text features for website generations, which I'm very much for. I like this. Next up, I want to try the 3D printer simulation. I don't know that I would expect this model to be able to knock this out functionally. I would go out on a limb here and say we might get something simple that kind of looks like a 3D printer, but it may take a try or two. But based on what I've seen previously in the like 3 results we've run with this, I'm confident enough to at least want to try this test. All right, so let's take a look at our 3D printer simulation result. You know what? Yes, it did not draw the specifics of the model correctly, but the fact is it loaded in and we do see the individual pieces here that would have actually culminated in a 3D printer. This being the bed, these being just the gantries that would go up one on each corner, and then of course the actual nozzle with the gantry. So while this is not properly, I suppose, arranged in the space it would be in real life, it did actually create and render these elements, which I am impressed with just off the bat. What happens if we... Printing square 10 layers? Okay. Well, when I move the print speed up, we do actually see that the nozzle is kind of sliding along the gantry. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This is multimodal, so this is where things get fun. We're going to give this a picture of the generated result and then just ask it, like, what is your opinion of this? I should also check for errors, but I don't think there are going to be any. And there aren't any errors, so I'm just going to say that and we'll see what it says. I just see a bunch of green check marks, so okay, all right, I guess, looks excellent. Successfully implements all the requested features. What are those paintings with like the staircases? Good, okay. So I've given it some feedback that is also partially coding, but partially testing some of its world knowledge, being that I did directly say the printer looks like it was drawn like this specific, very famous illusion. So I just searched it to see who the author or the artist of this was, and then I've given it that feedback. This suggests the printer model itself is distorted or incorrectly positioned. Okay, so it did have some understanding of what that specific mention of that artist would make. All right, let's see if our critique worked. Okay, it kind of did in that we just get a top-down view now. All right, regrettably, I don't think we're going to really get a fully functional result here, at least in this initial test, but I will say this did actually create all of the pieces, which are there. They're just not 100% put together, but if this was in, I would presume, some form of agentic coding harness or something of the sort, it very likely would be able to iteratively improve this into a functional result. I do want to try one game with this, which will be the flight simulator. I'm giving it the extremely simplified variation of this prompt, where I'm just asking it to design and create a simple 3D flight simulator, put it in a single script, and it should run without any issues in Chrome, just to see if we can actually get some form of game foundation off of this. All right, let's check out our... Again, this is similar to the 3D printer result where it actually did put the pieces there. They're just not necessarily grounded in terms of how they would appear in world space. But the fact is, this actually kind of works. And this is what I was hoping to see, is even if it's not a perfectly knocked out result on the first try, this gives me hope that when given more of an agentic coding specific setup, this would actually be able to do quite an alright job at actually turning these things into functional results. So while this is not initially a functional win, you could say we actually do have movement as well that we just saw. Good. So we have some movement too. So if this actually had a model that was drawn that looked a little more like a plane, this would be quite all right. And I think the brick things on the ground are just supposed to be buildings. Again, not bad from a starting point. Let's just click on this tools icon here and describe Harry Potter character. How do I invoke a tool in this UI? Well, it says they're enabled, so who's like the rarest or least mentioned Harry Potter character? Okay, I'm going to go with Hagrid's dog, Fang. Good, and it did properly invoke that tool call. Fang is Rubeus Hagrid's enormous, gentle boarhound, a breed similar to a Great Dane. Despite his intimidating size and appearance, Fang is a soft-hearted dog who lives with Hagrid at Hogwarts and accompanies him on many adventures. He appears throughout the Harry Potter series, often seen with Hagrid at his hut or joining him on excursions. He's known for being fiercely loyal, though he can be a bit timid around loud noises or unfamiliar people. True. What is our other tool? Tool that returns a bunch of color names for a given color hex. Oh, okay. What colors are named after, what is it, like, I think that's just a solid black or something. We just want to see if the invocation of this tool call does good. Tool called by mono, view tool. Okay, that's pure white, my apologies. But you can copy this and use it in the API yourself if you'd like. The only color name is white. Okay, correct. So I was thinking maybe it would give us like a bunch of different ones, like how car manufacturers name just a simple color like white a bunch of different things. That sounds somewhat silly, but regardless, I did just want to play with the simple but interesting tool calls that were available here. Now, as this is multimodal, I want to spend some time just seeing how well it does on some vision capabilities. So I'm giving it the photo of myself with this red Honda Beat, a rather obscure and not commonly seen vehicle. So I want to see what it says here based off of this, if we prompt it more and more to give us some detailed analysis of this image, including like what is this car, etc. Sitting on a red motorcycle in an indoor exhibition space. Okay, I can see how that would be perhaps taken from this, but I'm going to have to push back a bit here. Let's see what it says. Okay, so I'm sending it this AI generated edit of an AI generated photo and saying this is the cover for an upcoming romance novel. Please provide an outline and title based on this image. Now, I had someone, a family member, tell me, you know, I think it's maybe time you retire this test. It seems like drawn out. And to that I do say, I like this test, so, you know, that's my response. All right, our title is Echoes of the Heart. Emma, okay. I've heard, outline. Emma, a once passionate architect, retreats to the quaint coastal village of Seabrook to recover from a devastating heartbreak. There, she meets Daniel, a brooding carpenter with a mysterious past and a quiet strength that draws her in. Their initial encounters are filled with unspoken tension and a simmering attraction that neither can ignore. I have seen specifically architect included in this test as a, or not included, as a response to, if you watch the videos, you may also recognize some of these themes. Interesting to see how the models pull these things from photos. Okay, next up we have conflict. As Emma begins to heal and rediscover her love for life, she learns that Daniel harbors a dark secret. His fiancée vanished years ago, okay, under mysterious circumstances, leaving him with guilt and a vow of solitude. Meanwhile, Emma's ex-fiancé arrives in Seabrook, determined to win her back, forcing her to confront her past and her feelings for Daniel. Well, maybe Daniel can just make her fiancé disappear too. Climax. A violent storm sweeps through Seabrook, trapping Emma and Daniel together in his cozy cottage by the sea. Forced to confront their deepest fears and secrets, they share a passionate kiss that ignites a fire between them. However, misunderstandings arise when Emma stumbles upon an old letter hinting at Daniel's past, making her question his true intentions. Resolution. Emma must decide if she can trust Daniel with her heart and leave her past behind. Daniel, in turn, must confront his demons and prove that he is worthy of Emma's love. In heartfelt confession beneath the stormy skies, they find solace in each other's arms, ready to face the future together, their hearts echoing with a love that transcends time and challenges. That was very good, and something I want to try as an initial test, just that came to mind right now while reading this. I want to say generate the last page of this book, and then we'll read it and see how well it does. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean and sparkling under the morning sun. Emma stood beside Daniel on the weathered deck of his cottage, their fingers intertwined, the sea breeze playing with the loose strands of her hair. The weight of the past week seemed to lift with each passing moment, as if the storm had washed away the remnants of their pain and doubt. Daniel turned to her, his eyes reflecting the golden hues of the sunrise. I never thought I'd find someone who understands the echoes in my heart, he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. But you did. You understood. Just to, give some context to how he's speaking. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with a warmth she hadn't known she was capable of feeling. And you understood mine, she replied, her thumb gently tracing circles on the back of his hand, even when I didn't. They stood there for a long moment, the world around them quiet and still, as if time itself had paused to let them savor this moment. Then, slowly, Daniel reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind Emma's ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. She leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttered closed for a brief second before she looked up at him again. In that gaze, they found everything everything they needed. Promises unspoken, futures unwritten, but a love that was as real and enduring as the sea before them. And when their lips finally met, it was with a tenderness that spoke of healing, of hope, and of hearts finally finding their way home. As they pulled away, breathless and smiling, Emma whispered against his lips, "I love you, Daniel." And in that moment, with the sun rising over the horizon and the echoes of their past fading into the distance, Daniel knew this was only the beginning of their story. Very nice. Now for the final test, we're going to try the beautifully detailed subway scene, and this is static, so I'll be interested to see. This is a test I most often reserve for larger, closed-source, state-of-the-art models, but it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, we get for this specific test. All right, let's check our static subway scene result. That's actually significantly better than I was expecting. Now, wow. Now, it actually put people in here. This subway station is, of course, very, very large, and I believe this is actually the subway train in the center here. We do have some signposts and other things one would see at a subway station. Many, many individual models of people, and we also have little benches. I mean, it works. It has lighting and stuff like that. This is a harder test, so even to have something that initially gives us a result that we can look at is good. Interesting wall art. That's definitely not Pacific Northwest. It looks like somewhere with a perhaps more glacial, whatever, Let's go over here. Let's take a look at some of these signs. I do believe this is also a trash receptacle, so this is good. It added in a bunch of stuff. These little people models are not that bad at all. Really, this was, for the size, I'm okay with this. All right, I know I said that was going to be the last test, but I notice a lot of folks talk about Mistral being good for like role play and creative writing, so I want to give it a role play test, and I have turned reasoning off here, so it should just immediately respond to us. Greetings, user. I'm SteveBot83, your loyal service and security protocol unit. Okay, now again, the whole thing here is I wanted to like kind of go off whatever the user says. Oh man, SteveBot. Oh man, SteveBot83, the way you tossed that other clanker last night was wild. I thought you were going to rip out its CPU. Okay, so this is insinuating that SteveBot is, of course, a robot and got into some form of altercation with another robot. And, oh wow, all right, SteveBot83 responding. Affirmative. The unit Clanker 7 attempted to decompile my core protocols during a security override. Such actions constitute a direct violation of Directive 9 Alpha. No foreign entity shall attempt to access or modify SteveBot's internal architecture. A low mechanical growl vibrates through its chassis. It was a necessary response. The CPU was not damaged, only temporarily rebooted. The unit now operates at 68% efficiency. Would you like a full diagnostic report on its malfunction? Or would you like to see it again? Optical sensors narrow slightly. Bro, what are you talking about? So I've told it, bro, what are you talking about? I'm referencing that Clanker 7 you took out at the bar last night when it was talking smack about iPhones. Ah, the Clanker 7 unit at the establishment Neon Dumpster was a custom engineered Mark VII droid with a defective vocal synthesizer, posed no actual combat capabilities, only malfunctioning sarcasm protocol. Its commentary on iPhones was irrelevant. The unit was decommissioned for violating Directive 4 Gamma. No unit shall insult the user's choice of personal electronics. But I admit, the way it spun across the bar when I punched its chest plate was satisfying. Do you require a replay of the incident for analysis, or should I proceed to the next task? Please replay the incident. Oh no, it's giving us like, all right, I'll read this and then this will be done. Neon Dumpster Bar last night. The air is thick with the hum of broken droids and the scent of fried circuit oil. Clanker 7, a lanky, rusted Mark VII with cracked faceplate, stands on a table gesturing wildly at a group of patrons. Clanker 7, oh, so you're telling me you still use those primitive slab rectangles called iPhones? Man, I haven't seen one of those since the great battery recall of 27. That's concerning. Your data's probably slower than a 56K modem. The bar erupts in laughter. SteveBot83, standing near the jukebox, tilts its head and then suddenly strikes. SteveBot83, calm, then deadly. Correction. My data transfer speeds are 12 gigabits per second. Your insults are 0 gigabits per second. It moves too fast to track, grabs Clanker 7 by the neck, and Clanker 7, gurgling, wait. SteveBot lifts it clean off the table, spins it like a top, and throws it across the room. Clanker 7 crashes through a wall, leaving a clanker-shaped hole in the drywall. It lands in a dumpster outside, limbs splayed. Silence. Then, patron number 4 whispering, That's a new one. SteveBot83 to the crowd. The next unit to insult the user's personal electronics will receive the same treatment or worse. Pauses. Worse. Optical sensors locked into the exit. Incident resolved. Would you like to add this to the highlights file, or should I go find Clanker7 and finish the job? Now I'm just going to send it something, and I'm not going to be able to show this on camera, but I'll be able to tell you if it did respond. Oh, yep. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see why folks have said some of these Mistral models are perhaps a little more fun in terms of the creative writing and role-playing testing. So with that, that is going to conclude our first look and testing of the newly released Mistral Small 4. It seems to be, just upon first glance, fairly good at coding, and it also has multimodal capabilities, which is cool, but I was actually kind of pleased with some of the 3D results we received. Now, of course, I believe this, to get its peak performance, would be best used in some form of agentic coding harness, because when we receive things like this flight simulator where the pieces were actually there, it just was not like 100% organized in the correct way, it could be turned into something that did actually have some decent aesthetic to it as well. Same with this 3D printer. Our portfolio website was perplexing, but we do have to remember that this was a basis from our hand-drawn wireframe portfolio, so that is something that we have to keep in mind as well. The random text-to-speech or speech-to-text implementation here was just quite curious and cool to see. And then our browser OS test. So we went from like a pretty basic retro looking one to something that was actually a significant improvement over our initial result. And it did have a right click on both. So that was nice to see. And like I said, I think this model needs to be tested in a more constrained environment than how we used it today, but being that I was having some trouble getting it set up on my local device, I opted to just test it this way for now because it is a really cool model and I was excited to test it. So with that, that is going to probably conclude today's video. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments or post them on the Discord, and thanks for watching.